And the meeting is being recorded, just so that everybody knows. Our attendee left. So we're recording ourselves right now.
It's Jordan. I'll let Jordan in.
Perfect. They disappeared from me for a second, so I wonder if that was just it letting him in. Oh, and then howdy, Jordan.
Hey, Jordan.
Here, I'm gonna pause recording for a quick second until we actually start. There we go. Recording has started. Just a reminder, we do record all these meetings. They are public. We post them on our website, which is included in our agenda and in our meeting minutes now. So if you ever want to watch a prior recording, you can do that. We have our YouTube channel. The chats are also recorded. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. I will start sharing my screen here in a second, if I can get it right. Okay, and you should all be seeing it. And then, well, give me 1 second because my computer is upset about that. Great. Okay, so you should all be seeing the IDEAS Advisory Council public meeting slide right now. Can somebody just kind of confirm that for me, just to make sure? All right, I see a thumbs up, and I heard it correct. So wonderful. Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Equitable Access to Services Advisory Council public meeting on September 24th. I appreciate everybody coming here. I appreciate everybody giving us some grace and patience as we technologically move folks over. That is going to be a long-standing thing. So thank you for hanging with us for that. Our agenda today looks like this. We are going to do our welcome and meeting overview. We have 25 minutes slotted for that today, which I've given some extra time to sort of review things. I've built in extra time to get the technology all going and everything, but then also we will have a little bit of extra time to welcome our 4 new council members who had their orientation on September 10th. And so in lieu of a member spotlight today, we will instead spotlight the new folks who will have an extra chance to introduce themselves and get to meet the rest of our council. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate that. We are going to go through council and partner updates. Michelle Dumais did call me before this and gave me some CAC updates that I'll share out on her behalf. And Kisley, you are welcome to help me with that if you would like. After that, we are going to review conflicts of interests and the expectations for the council. These are things that we reviewed at orientation, and we felt that it would be nice to go through again with you all. At 2 o'clock, we'll have our break. Then we will resume with a presentation from Michaela Hennig and Wendy Artman from Ground Floor Media with an update on the IDEAS, marketing, and communication activities. We do not have public comment today, and so we will be striking that from our agenda. Nobody signed up ahead of time. Remember that our policy is that in order to make a public comment, you need to either email IDDEAS@denvergov.org or use our online form that is posted in our agendas and our communications to sign up ahead of time, at least 1 day before by 1 p.m. After that, we will do our planning for next meeting. Okay, so just some opening expectations and a reminder for everybody, we are IDEAS, so welcome. IDEAS partners with the community to manage local taxpayer dollars dedicated for Denver residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Our vision is to strive to make Denver an inclusive community where people with IDD feel welcomed, valued, and empowered to live the lives they envision for themselves. This council is comprised of Denver residents with lived experience with IDD. We meet monthly to discuss all sorts of topics relevant to Denver residents with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Using community feedback, individual knowledge, and expert presentations, the council provides recommendations to Denver Human Services about the best way to prioritize funds and programs. So just some expectations for everybody. I do like to review these ahead of every meeting. Please be respectful of everyone attending the meeting. This means that while you're here, please be nice, please be calm and diplomatic, please be positive with your language. It is okay to disagree, but please be respectful. That also means being respectful outside of the meeting too. If anybody votes in a way you don't like, if anybody says anything that you don't like, that's okay. Please maintain a level of respect for everybody else here. Mute yourself. Well, this is for panelists, our council members. Please mute yourself and keep yourselves muted. Then use the raise your hand Zoom function and then unmute to speak. When you're speaking, do your best to introduce yourself. This way, people who might not be able to see you on video know who is talking. Please stay on topic according to our agenda. We try to keep all of our business related to Denver residents with IDD. We have a lot of different things that we like to talk about, but please try to stay within the agenda items as best you can. All of our meetings are public and recorded. That includes chat. We post these on our website so that they can be reviewed by the public. So please, in the chat, do not put anything that you don't want the public to know. So any private information like addresses, phone numbers, things like that, please save that. We can always connect or put that in other places that are more safe. But if you don't want that permanently posted somewhere on our website, don't put it in that chat. Votes will happen in the chat. And make sure, again, that your chat is set to everyone. We want everybody to see who is voting for what. We try to be transparent as possible. So please make sure you do that. And all you have to do to vote is say yes, no, or if you are abstaining, abstain. Please always remain safe during meetings. It is understood that people have busy schedules, might need to be driving somewhere, might need to be going somewhere. If you are driving, please don't worry about voting. Don't worry about participating. Hang up the call and you can rejoin it after, or at the least, turn off your video and turn off your camera and worry about being safe on the road. Please respect and honor the Denver Code of Ethics, as well as our bylaws and any other ethical guidelines that we have. This is a new one that some of you might notice. We'll be reviewing this more today, but I thought it might actually be good to kind of keep this as an expectation. Just remember, we are here to center the community above all. And so always keep that in mind. If you ever have a question about potential conflicts of interest or ethics, reach out either to me or to Jordan or anybody else, and we can talk about those and all that. It is better to ask than to not. And last but definitely not least, have fun. Be in community, be inclusive, have a good time with each other. It's 2 hours of sometimes heavy work, but it doesn't mean it can't be fun work, right, Brian? All right.
Right, Corey.
Wonderful. At this point, after I've reviewed all those expectations and stuff, I think I will turn it over to our chairs. I will go ahead and mute myself. Please let me know, though, if I ever need to take down the slides.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Lindsay. I'll be chairing the meeting this afternoon. And just a reminder, like we had mentioned before, the meeting's being recorded. It could be used internally to review the meeting, including the discussion and comments in chat. We have engaged live captioning services for the meeting. So if you would benefit from those, you can go to the More button at the bottom with the 3 dots and select that. With all of that, I hereby call this IDEAS Advisory Council meeting to order on September 24th, 1:12 p.m. Also a reminder, our meetings are open to the public and we want to welcome returning first-time guests and of course all of our new members. So with our first topic of business would be to review the meeting minutes from August. I think we only have myself and Chris here that would have been in the prior meeting, unless anyone else entered.
And to me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I thought I had said that, but I will give a minute if either Brian or Chris or anyone else from the August meeting has anything that needs to be amended from those minutes. And so nothing to change, so I'll put out a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I second that motion.
So with that. Michaela has reposted your comment. Okay, so with that we'll put it to vote for the chat. Yes, no, or abstain to approve the meeting minutes from August. And that can just, of course, be those of us who were there last month.
We have 2 votes for yes currently. We have 3. For those new folks who perhaps weren't at last meeting, you are welcome to abstain in this. And to do that, all you need to type is abstain, and that will be your vote counted for sake of attendance and everything like that. But it is understood that you weren't there and everything, so you don't need to vote yes or no and review
Right. Who would,
minutes.
yeah, mainly be looking just for myself, Brian and Chris for our votes.
Yeah.
I think Brian, if you might want to pop a yes in again, just because you had voted before we motioned to approve. Or not. But we do have 2 yeses from myself and Brian, so we'll go ahead and mark that as approved.
Great.
And with that, we can move on to, okay, so we have yes from Chris as well. So we can move on to our introductions.
Yes. Thank you, Lizzie. This is Corey talking. I've left out the introduction slide, so that is on me. Lindsay, would you mind just kind of demonstrating for our new council members how we normally do introductions and everything? And then
Yeah, so
great.
so basically, I'll just say it and then do it. We usually give, your name, your role on the council. So if you're, for our new members, you would be a voting member, and then give a visual description of yourself, and then kind of what role brings you to the council, be that, your role as a person in the community or your professional role or what have you. So my name is Lindsay Westmiller. I am a co-chair on the council. I'm a middle-aged woman with black hair. I've got a blue button-down top on. I work with the Aging and Disability Resource Center. And I think Brian has already had to step out. So what we'll do is we'll pass around. And I think what we can do is we can start with our newer members. So if you want to go ahead and give your intro, and then if you would like to share something like what brought you to the council or anything that you're looking forward to in terms of your involvement with the council, feel free to add something. So go in the order I see. So I will pass on to Jessica to start, if you don't mind.
Hi, my name is Jessica Reichel, and I am one of the new members. And I am a member of the IDD community. And I'm also a member of disability community. Oh, sorry, and I am white, and I have brown hair, and I have, I think it's a green color top. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Why don't we go to Molly, please?
Hi, I'm Molly Mason. I'm one of the new council members. I am a white female with brown hair backed up in a bun. I'm wearing a blue cardigan and gray t-shirt. I am a teacher in Denver Public Schools and work within the 18 to 21 transition program. I've lived in Denver for about 11 years now and have worked with the IDD community professionally for the past 11 years. And happy to be a member of the council.
Welcome, thank you. And I think our next new member would be Alexa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alexa Gagne. I am a woman in, I think I'm 42, 40s, with brown hair. I'm wearing a purple top, and I don't know if you can see my earrings, but I have silver earrings on. And I am a new council member as well. Really just happy to be joining everybody. I'm a mom of 3 girls, one Colette who has Down syndrome. And I also am the marketing communications director at Denver Rescue Mission. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And as Brian mentioned, he had to leave early, so he is gone now. So we've got Chris Patton. If you want to give a little intro to yourself, either typing or otherwise, if possible. And we also have a couple of intros in the chat too, from Jordan Humphreys and Jordan Mulholland, and it's like we've got a hi from Chris. So, and then also Michaela. And so that, in terms of pre-existing council members, it would be myself and Chris. And so now we'll pass on to Kisley, please. Oh, I'm sorry. If 1 second, I'm just gonna read Chris's put his intro. So Chris Patton, white male, 41 years old and wearing a blue shirt, and happy to be here. Thank you so much, Chris. And then it's copied again. All right, so pass to Kisley.
Hi, everybody. Welcome new members. My name is Kisley Blue, and I'm the Mill Levy Program Manager at Rocky Mountain Human Services. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a Black woman in my early 40s here in my home office. I'm wearing all black, have braids in my hair, and I am a non-voting member. And I will pass it over to Wendy.
Hey everyone, I'm Wendy Artman. So I will be talking with you and Michaela a little bit later to fill you all in on the awesome things we're doing from a communication standpoint. I am a 50-something white woman with big giant blue glasses and a white shirt, and I am working from my home office today, which is also my living room, and I'm really happy to be here. And should I be popping it to someone else next?
That's okay. We've got it. Normally we would do our intros with the council members, and then so we've kind of got all our council members who've done our intros at this point. So now we'll go back to our DHS staff. So if we can go to Michaela and then wrap back up with Corey at the end.
Hi, this is Michaela. Lindsay, did you want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
My name is Michaela Hennig. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the IDEAS program manager. I'm working over here at DHS. I have a virtual Red Rocks background and a white cardigan. I'm a white female with brown hair, and I am excited to be here today. Thank you all for joining us. And I'll pop it over to Corey.
Hi, everyone. I am Corey Boyle. I am a white male presenting person with darker stubble on the lower half of my face, black headphones on, and short dark hair and square rimmed glasses. I'm wearing a flannel today because it's fall. I am the Denver Human Services staff liaison for the advisory council. So I work on posting the meeting minutes, facilitating the meetings, and constructing the agendas alongside a little bit of facilitation with the chairs. So welcome and thank you all for being here. Thank you, new council members. Thank you to any of our guests. We do have a few today. And so if any of our guests wants to introduce themselves, they can put so in the chat and just let people know who you are. That's great. But yeah, that is wonderful. Thank you all so much. I will move to the next slide and restart sharing here in a second. I do see a hand. I appreciate the enthusiasm to attend and raise your hand. But we don't allow public comment at this time unless you have signed up beforehand, just to make it equitable for everybody to share that space and share that time. So thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate that. Go ahead, Michaela.
Hey, this is Michaela speaking. Londa, thanks so much for joining us. Corey, I wonder if maybe Londa was a bit confused. I don't think guests have access to the chat. Is that right?
Yep, they do not.
Okay, so Londa, if that was your question, thank you so much for being here. You won't be able to introduce yourself in the chat, but we are happy to have you here and all the other guests. Thanks for bearing with us all as we get used to this new platform, just like everyone else.
Great, thank you. I should at this time, this is Corey speaking again. I should at this time just kind of remind folks of why we do it like this. We do this webinar modality now with limited functions for attendees to use the chat and to begin and to engage with us, just to ensure security, to make sure that we protect the space of those who are trying to speak, of our council members here and public commenters, just so that disruptions are limited. So thank you for bearing with us and thank you for understanding. Okay. As I mentioned at the head of the meeting, Michelle Dumais, who was our normal Community Advisory Council delegate, is not here, but she did call me ahead of time and gave me her updates. And Kisley, you are welcome to fill in any blanks that I might not know, or expand upon anything that I do say. So feel free to join me on that. But what she said was that the new members for the Community Advisory Council have been seated and are all set to go. So that's great. I know that they were in a recruitment mode just like we were, so welcome to them. She also mentioned that the Community Advisory Council had heard about the Kelsey reports, and she gave them some information about that, and they asked for her to return and give more information at a later date. She did not say when, but we're happy to hear that that is going around and the information is being shared. Is there anything else that I missed, Kisley, or that you would like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to, sorry, y'all, this is Kisley Blue, Rocky Mountain Human Services. I'd like to just add a little bit to that report out. Michelle did have to leave that meeting a little bit early also, so she was not present for the other half of the meeting where we asked the CAC for recommendations on our funding priority area. Mill Levy is gearing up for our 2025 funding announcement request for proposals for our community initiatives. And so part of that process is that we ask for those funding priority areas from our CAC. And so we ask for those recommendations, and we are excited to be able to share this funding opportunity in October. So more to come.
Thank you, Kisley. Lindsay, I'll turn it back over to you if you're able.
Okay, so yes, so this is where when we do our council and partner updates, and we always hear from our CAC member who liaises with the Rocky Mountain Council. So we've got that update now from Michelle via Corey. And if anyone else has any updates to share, any news that would be relevant to the council, this would be the time for that. Any council members that would give space if anybody has anything that they want to share, any upcoming news or events. I'm not seeing anything. We can certainly move forward to the next item in our agenda, which would be the updates on conflicts of interest and expectations. And for that, I will pass back to Corey.
Hi, everyone. This is Corey speaking again. Sorry to be so involved. I don't, but I appreciate that you're all here to hear this. So on September 10th, we held our orientation, and we had a little help from Bob Wolf, who's here today. And we gave out a lot of information to our new council members about ethics, potential conflicts of interest, and the guidelines that we like to follow. We thought it would be a good idea to go over those again, and we have Jordan Humphreys here as well to help with this and open the door for a discussion. This way we can make sure that we're all aware of the various different things that we have to abide by, and that we're all openly communicating about potential conflicts of interest. Each council member does have to keep their declaration of interest form up to date. So please, if you ever come across a new connection, a new relationship that you think is in any kind of way involved with mill levy funding or advisory council work, please update that declaration of interest and send that in to me. I document those and I keep those on file. In this PowerPoint, I have the links to the ethics handbook and the code of ethics, as well as a document called the conflicts of interest guidance. And this is something that has been handed out at orientation. If anybody does not have access to that, you can access it through this PowerPoint that I'll be sending out after. That should be, actually has been sent out to all of you already. But I can also send it to you directly. So please make sure you just reach out and let me know if you have any trouble either accessing it or if you don't even have it. I want to make sure that you do all have that. Give me 1 second here. So I'll go through this a little bit, but then I'll open the door for Jordan and Robert to talk more about it, since they are the experts in it a little bit more than I am. But generally, to summarize everything, it is always best to ask. You can reach out to me, and I usually just kind of confer with Jordan Humphreys. But if you ever have any questions about the code of ethics, the bylaws, or any conflicts of interests. But overall, we want to make sure that each council member, in spirit and in their actions, is always centering and placing the community ahead of their own personal interests. If you are representing your community, Denver residents who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, overall, that is the best thing that you can do. You want to make sure that you're doing that more than putting your own interests ahead of that, such as promoting your own business or events that directly benefit you to an intense degree. So I'm going to read off these 5 bullet points that I have on the PowerPoint here, and then we'll go from there. So you will not use your position for individual gain. You will be transparent and honest about your relationships and connections. You will not speak to or promote individual products, services, organizations, or other entities that primarily benefit yourself, your family, or others that you hold a relationship with. You will champion the community and put their needs above your individual interests. And whenever a conflict of interest is possible, you will declare this and recuse yourself and abstain from official actions and votes. That is always an option. It is always okay to abstain from votes or to recuse yourself from a meeting. You can do that and come back. You don't have to leave a whole meeting if you don't want to, just as long as you are being transparent about all those connections that you have. We do have a few more slides on substantial conflicts, but I wanted to open the door right now before I talked anymore to Robert or Jordan, in case either of you wanted to expand upon what I just said in this slide here.
Is Bob able to speak?
Yeah. Am I open now? Am I on now? Is this
Yeah.
thing on?
You're counsel to the Board of Ethics, so I'll let you lead.
We can hear you. Yep.
So, thanks for this opportunity again. It seems to me that people often think that ethics is sort of a very murky area, right? I mean, like there's a lot of details and a lot of what ifs and a lot of getting down into the dirt and stuff like that. And while that certainly can be the case, I think for the most part, your considerations here are really pretty simple. And if you keep what Corey just said in mind, I think you're not going to have any problems at all. So when you ask yourself, when you're taking a vote, and you ask yourself, why am I voting this way? Okay. Your answer ought to be because this is what I believe is best for the community. Okay. If you're thinking, well, gee, I could stand to make a buck, or I know someone who could stand to make a buck, or, anything that somehow involves the interest of someone else, something else, someone else making a gain, you making a gain, you're not doing it for the right reasons. There's a potential conflict there. But as long as you are legitimately voting your conscience on behalf of your community, you're going to be okay unless you have direct a direct benefit that can't be helped by that gain. So in other words, if you're voting on a contract and you're the contractor, I'm sorry, you just can't get around that. That's going to be a conflict of interest and you can't vote on that. But if, let's say, you know someone who's got a contract, the contract comes up and you're voting to approve that contract because you really think they're the best and most qualified person to fulfill that responsibility, that vote is good. If on the other hand, you're voting for them because, they're really my best friend and I'd love to see him, make a buck on this, then I think you've probably got to disclose that and maybe not vote. Okay. So a lot depends on what you believe on the inside and then making sure that it looks good to everyone else as well, right? I mean, I know the Supreme Court lately has sort of botched the concept of appearance of impropriety. But I know when we were in law school, it was a big thing. Now, admittedly, that was years and years and years and years ago. But the appearance of impropriety was a big thing. When it comes to conflict of interest, it still is, because what the Code of Ethics expects, what the ethics board and ethics ordinance hope to see, is not that everything is technically on the up and up and that it's technically right and proper, but that it looks right and proper. And the reason appearances are important is because people are trusting you. They're expecting you to do the right thing for the right reasons. And when stuff doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right. And if it doesn't feel right, people start getting disaffected. It hurts your credibility. It hurts your ability to do your job effectively. So that's why we still think appearances are important. We still think doing the right thing for the right reasons is important. And in this case, oversharing with your colleagues and with the public, much more valuable, much more appropriate than undersharing. If there is at all a concern that you think something might look bad or you think someone might expect, I would talk about this if I were doing it, I would expect to disclose this. We'd hope you'd do the same thing. Now, you do have Jordan, who is also an expert, to rely on if you've got any questions. I know that I think, Corey, you just talked to Lori Weiser, the chairman of the ethics board. She is wonderful. She is there to help. I also represent the ethics board currently. You've got a lot of help, a lot of support whenever you need it. Don't hesitate to use it. If you at all have any questions, or if you just want to chat to clear something up, that we're always available for you. We hope to be a good and valuable and available resource to you whenever you feel the need. So that would be my only comment. Jordan might want to amplify on that. He might not. That's okay too. But
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah,
I think you did a great job, obviously. A couple of things.
He's expected to say
out.
that, by the way. So,
well, you're my boss.
That's what I mean.
I have a conflict there, and I'll acknowledge that right here publicly.
I'll waive that conflict. So that's
thank you. As Bob said, there's some conflicts can't be waived. They're pretty obvious. Yeah, my recommendation is when you're looking at a situation, look at it from not your perspective, but from somebody else's perspective. It's that outside view of what they might perceive, whether it's real or not, that should raise the red flag that I should ask questions or I don't need to ask questions. This is fine. I would defer to the side of asking questions. I can tell you, I previously represented the board of ethics before Bob, and my experience with the board over several years is they take into account and they appreciate folks who ask first, seek permission, rather than asking forgiveness later. So contacting Lori, contacting Corey, contacting myself, saying, hey, here's the situation. Is there a problem here? What can I do about it? What do you suggest? And then following that guidance will go a long ways towards, buying you credibility if something came as a complaint before the Board of Ethics. You don't want to be the person that comes before the Board of Ethics and they didn't ask the questions or they ignored the advice and did the exact opposite. That's not going to bode well for you. Another thing to keep in mind is that morality and ethics don't always align. Ethics in the city and county of Denver are specifically limited to what's written in the Code of Ethics. There are a lot of things that may violate the spirit of the Code of Ethics, but do not constitute a violation of the Code of Ethics itself. There's only certain limited things like conflicts of interest, receiving gifts in violation of the code requirements are a couple of examples that are higher flyers frequently become before the Board of Ethics. So keep that in mind. It's good to understand what the code provides because it is not always what you might think. Let's just put it that way. And I think that's all I have about that. The conflicts of interest thing, I guess we'll go into some more detail. I know Corey has some great slides with examples. It's very context specific. It's very hard to give generalizations as to what is a conflict of interest. Beyond the suggestion I gave to open is that think about it from the view of someone else looking on the outside in. Would they look at that and say, huh, that looks kind of smelly? If that's the case, you've got an issue. You need to work it out. And with that, Corey, go on with your slides.
Can I just close with one more thing?
No.
Of course.
And because it sort of brought something to mind, Jordan's last comment there. I'm often called on to give seminars or instructions on how to avoid sexual harassment, things like that. And whenever I do that, I'm always concerned that people are listening and saying, now I know how much I can get away with. Now I know where the line is, so I can take it just up to that line and know how not to step over. Right. So, but when Jordan says, sometimes, and he's absolutely right, the ethics code itself is not as stringent as you might think it ought to be. Please don't misinterpret that as saying you can probably get away with a lot more than you thought you could. Right. I mean, because that's obviously not what we're trying to impress upon anyone here. Play it safe, play it conservatively. We hope you won't be, stepping up to the line knowing that, well, at least I haven't crossed it yet. Obviously not what we're looking for. If you think you're getting close, let us know. And with that, I will certainly thank you all for this opportunity and let you get out of your meeting. So thank you.
Thank you both so much. This is Corey speaking. Appreciate Jordan, appreciate you, Robert, for both coming and offering that. I think you give a nice, easy to access interpretation of all this that, I wouldn't be able to do. So thank you again for all the information and the discussion that you held around this. We did want to kind of cover what is laid out as a substantial conflict. And then I'll go over a few other things. There's not really much more I can add than what they've already said. So just try to focus on those recommendations that Jordan and Robert both gave y'all. And I'll just go over this as hopefully something that helps clarify things. So the other party is something that is referenced in this slide here, and I'm going to read this out for those who can't see it. But I just want to clarify the other party. When I refer to that throughout this slide, it is any organization that could possibly benefit or receive mill levy dollars as a result of one of our discussions or recommendations. Now, the Code of Ethics doesn't specifically call us out, but in our case, that is what the other party typically refers to. And so a substantial conflict can occur when you, your immediate family member, a business associate, or an employer, or perhaps another strong relationship that you have with somebody, you either work for them, you have an officer that is an immediate family member, business associate, or employer. You're involved in proposals or negotiations for them. You perform more than a nominal portion of work for another party in the matter, and you participate in providing legal representation or lobbying for another party in the matter. We have some examples here of those. So an officer in another party might be your mother, could be serving on the board of directors for an organization. That your mother might be that officer in the other party there. If you're voting on a recommendation that is based on a potential contract that can go for that organization that your mom is on the board for, that's a substantial conflict of interest. That is like a clear-cut case of you should be recusing yourself and not participating in any votes. If you work as a grant writer for a company that is contracted to write grants for an organization that could receive mill levy dollars, that's again another like very clear-cut example of a time that you should be recusing yourself and stepping away and not being involved in a recommendation or discussion about these things. I won't read the rest of these examples, but if anybody has any more questions, these are for reference here.
Corey?
Yeah.
Can I just interject real quick, put a
Yeah,
finer
feel free.
point on this?
Go ahead.
So we have a lot of new members here. We've got some members that have been around for a while. I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a minute. Participation in this council is to represent the interests of the IDD community in the city and county of Denver. If you find yourself representing or being motivated by an interest in yourself, family member, a friend, your employer, someone specific, not the community in general, check yourself and back off a minute and readjust your perspective, because you're here to represent the interests of the IDD community as a whole, not any individual person, not any individual provider. If you're getting granular, then you've gone down the wrong path for what the purpose of participation in this group is about. It's that simple. I hope that helps.
That does. I think with that, I can move on and just kind of detail how we recuse ourselves and stuff like that. But again, if you have questions, always feel free to ask. If you're ever like, I don't really know if this is a substantial conflict or not, just email. Just ask us, just tell us, and we'll figure that out. We have great support to be able to do that. And there's also great other supporters in the community that can help with that too. So if you ever do need to recuse yourself, if you've asked us first and then we said, hey, yeah, it'd probably be great to recuse yourself during this conversation, you're going to want to do these 4 steps that I have up here. First is you'll want to announce publicly that you do have a conflict and state the nature of that conflict, and then announce that because of that conflict, you're recusing yourself. Again, that goes into our openness and our transparency, and just stating like, hey, I actually work for this organization that we're talking about right now. I'm going to go ahead and recuse yourself. Once you say that, then you can just go ahead and pop off the meeting. Just hit that leave button, and one of us can message you to let you know when you are welcome to come back in. You don't need to miss the whole meeting. It won't affect the stipends or anything like that. To recuse yourself, we want you to follow these codes. So just go ahead and recuse yourself. and then we'll let you know when that discussion is over, and you can come back and participate in all the rest of the agenda items that aren't involved in that. And then just after you rejoin, after you have that meeting, just go back to the meeting minutes and just check for documentation of that recusal. Again, we put those in the meeting minutes just to make sure that, again, we're being open and transparent, that the public fully knows who we are, what we're doing, all this kind of stuff. And so just go and check those. And then when we review them, if I ever do miss it or anything like that, just let me know and I can update it. And then you can, we can update those minutes as we do every meeting based on your review. We kind of talked about the appearance. Jordan did a great job of, just kind of look at things from other people's perspective. I think that's the best thing that we can do with this slide here. So just for those who can't see what I've got up right now, it's a slide that says the appearance of impropriety. Even if something looks like it could be unfair, we risk loss of public trust and confidence. And we do, take that seriously. We want the public and we want our community to fully trust us and, feel like this is a community that represents them and their needs. So just consider that as we keep going forward and everything. That is my last slide on this topic. Jordan and Robert, you're welcome to offer final thoughts. I also do want to offer a chance for council members to comment and discuss this too, in case they have questions or if they have any kind of feelings about the codes of ethics and anything like that. So with that, I'll stop sharing and we can discuss conflicts of interest and codes of ethics.
And I just want to add, don't let this be like super scary. It's not intended to be a scary thing. It's just to make you aware and conscious of this issue, that your relationships, your motivations can create issues, and just be sensitive to that. And when you feel that there might be an issue, ask for help, ask the questions. It's okay to have an appearance of impropriety if you put it out there and say, I'm afraid I might have an appearance of impropriety. What can I do about it? That builds confidence and trust, not asking for forgiveness later after it's discovered and you kept it under a bushel and hid it, or even if it's inadvertent. This is not about intent so much as, again, how it's perceived. I'll be quiet.
Would you be able to put the second to last slide up again?
Yeah. Yep. Give me a second.
While you do, I was just thinking, what would someone do if they're not sure, like in the midst of the meeting?
In the midst of the meeting, you can contact Corey, you can contact me either by telephone, text, or through the meeting chat with a direct message, not to everyone. I've made that mistake before. It's easy to do. Or even just open up a separate, email or whatever form of communication, just keep it on the down low. Because you're asking a private question about a concern you have. And then if it needs to be disclosed within the meeting, you'll get that guidance. Don't hesitate, especially if a vote's coming up, just say, hey, wait for a minute. I need to discuss something before we vote on this. Can we just take a second and seek that consultation? And it either resolves itself or we discuss it. But I wouldn't just blurt out in the middle of the meeting, I've got a conflict of interest. It's like a doctor saying, I've committed malpractice. Well, maybe you did and maybe you didn't. But let's not jump to a conclusion on this sort of thing. Just be sensitive to the issue and know when to raise it, who to raise it to, and how to deal with it. And that's what we're trying to help with here.
This is Corey speaking. Thank you, Jordan. Great question, Lindsay. What I would recommend is don't message me in the Zoom chat, because especially now with the webinar, you only have the options to send it to everybody or to everyone. You can text my work phone, and if any of the council members don't have that, I can resend that in my contact. It is actually on the agenda for the accessibility hour. That's the phone number. That's my phone number. So you can text that. That's the best way to contact me during a meeting. So if you have anything, even if it's not a conflict of interest, if you have like like any kind of question or concern in meeting, that's the best way to contact me, because my screens are fully taken up by everything. So this is like, I keep this on hand just in case somebody's saying like, oh, I can't get in or something like that. So if you do have a conflict, text that and just say like, hey, it's Lindsay. We're about to get into this discussion. I don't know if, my history here or my network there is involved. Could you help me? And then I'll respond to it. I'll probably shoot a message over to Jordan immediately, as well as maybe Michaela, and get real-time responses, hitting the ethics hotline for the IAC with that. But yeah. Yeah, and then yeah, just always do it exactly as Jordan said there. If just, go ahead and say it, so you don't need to blast it out until you know whether or not it actually is a conflict of interest. And I'll make decisions in the moment and let people know like, oh, hey, we're actually going to table this discussion until I know a little bit further about like these interactions that I've just been made aware of or something like that.
Yeah,
I'll never put any of you into a weird position of like, well, I don't know if I'm in a conflict of interest, so I'm making a guess now. And then afterwards, Corey told me that I was, and that kind of stinks, right? I would respond with whatever we thought was the best there.
And if you don't have time or you don't remember the cell phone number, there's nothing wrong with raising your hand within the meeting and just saying, hey, can I have a quick side conversation with Jordan, with Corey, with whatever, without saying what it's about. And just, ask for a little timeout without blowing up the meeting with a whole lot of information that might be alarming to people and is unnecessary. So, whatever method works best for you, but like I say, let's have a discussion before it's brought to the full meeting. And then if we need to have a disclosure, we'll have that. That helps. But don't get hung up on how to do it. Other than just try to be as least disruptive as you can to the flow of the meeting, while still getting it addressed in a timely manner. There's a little conflict there too.
yeah, I just wouldn't want someone to feel like unsure in the moment and then not know what to do, and then all of a sudden time passes and it's like meeting just continues. So
When in doubt, abstain from voting. You don't have to say why. It's not the end of the world unless it becomes a quorum issue for us. So, again, it goes back to that ask permission instead of forgiveness. It's better to act as conservatively and responsibly as possible in the moment. That's helpful.
Great question, Lindsay. That was actually really good for everybody to hear. Anybody else have any questions or anything that they want to share about this particular topic?
and presumably since someone's texting you, then they would wait to get a text back to know that it's okay to rejoin.
Yes. So if you recuse and you're out of the meeting or whatever, then yeah, I'll text you and say, hey, it's okay. And if any of my teammates are covering for me because I'm out or something like that, then I'll make sure the contact information is shared and you'll get a notice from somebody.
Corey, do we have time for me to tell a real quick war story that would give a good example for folks?
Sure, we've got 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to be quick. So previously unnamed person was involved with the council, very active, helped us. Part of what we do is we make recommendations, or not me, but you guys make recommendations to DHS on things that you think would be helpful to the IDE community. We think you should have a housing program. I'm just making stuff up. So this person worked on a request for a proposal, which is how the city puts out ideas for people to bid on and get contracts. And lo and behold, when we got some of the bids, one of the proposals showed this person was on the board of directors for one of the bidders. And they developed the actual bulk of the idea that formed the bid proposal. So that was a problem. We didn't discover it until we received the proposal because it was not disclosed beforehand. So, for example, if you have a great idea for something that you think the IDD program should recommend to DHS, make sure that, if there's any issue regarding your employer or your direct interest, that would then look kind of stinky at the back end when it goes out for bid proposals, that you talk about that up front first. Doesn't mean you can't be involved. It just gives us better ammunition for how you can be involved in a way that doesn't create problems later. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jordan. This is Corey again. Yeah, I think we've kind of satisfied this, but if anybody ever does have any more questions about any of these various laws, codes, anything like that, again, always just reach out and we can have a meeting. We can go through anything that doesn't make sense. I know the codes aren't always the most accessibly written. We can help boil that down and make that a little bit more plain language for you if you ever need that kind of thing. So just go ahead and reach out, email me, and we'll talk about it. And then, just one last reminder that it's always better just to ask before anything, and then we'll figure it out. Not to make it's also to all of this is a lot of times to help protect you. The more transparent you are, the more honest you are, when you get like an actual formal ruling on a potential, conflict of interest, it totally helps protect you when things might arise or somebody does have a question about this or that, because they see like, oh, you went out and fully declared everything. All right, those are the last 2 seconds that I had timed allotted for this. And then we are going to go to break. Is that okay, Lindsay? Sorry. Yeah. All right. So
Take care.
thank you, Robert. Thank you, Jordan. We will go on break for 5 minutes here. So it is 2 o'clock. We will come back exactly at 2:05. So please turn off your cameras. Feel free to go and get a snack or use the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, and we'll see you then. Hello, everyone. It is 2:05. I'd like to welcome everybody back. Please come on back and turn on your cameras if that's what you're choosing to do. And yeah. Great. See folks coming back. Awesome. Just before we get to our next agenda item, Lindsay, sorry. I just want to call out, thank you guests for being here. I appreciate it. If anybody does have any questions about the meeting, if they're having trouble accessing meeting, maybe you're having technical difficulties or anything out like that, feel free to email IDDEAS@denvergov.org and we can try to help you get connected. For anything else, if you're trying to engage in discussion and conversation with the meeting itself, we can connect afterwards, and I'm more than willing to see and hear from our community about this or that. But during the meeting itself, we try to make sure that this time is given for our council members to meet and engage with each other. And if you want to make public comment, please email IDDEAS@denvergov.org or go to our public comment form and fill that out ahead of time. And then we'll make sure you are given time during our public comment period to speak. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Lindsay.
Alrighty, it looks like the next item up is our update from Michaela on the IDEAS marketing and communications activities.
Thanks, Lindsay. This is Michaela speaking. So in response to a request last month from the council, I, together with Wendy Artman with Ground Floor Media and Center Table, are going to provide an overview of the work and objectives that we're doing for communications and marketing efforts for the IDEAS program. So this slide, sorry. The previous slide said the IDEAS communications in partnership with Ground Floor Media Center Table, and you can see Ground Floor Media's logo just to the left of their name. So before we dive into kind of the goals and strategies and some of the things that we've accomplished, I'd like to invite Wendy Artman to introduce herself and to talk a little bit more about Ground Floor Media Center Table and their relationship with the city of Denver. So you can go ahead and go on to the next slide and I'll pass it over to Wendy.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy Artman again, and sorry for my premature introduction earlier. Here's my official introduction, which is really the same introduction. I'm Wendy Artman. I'm a senior director with GFM Center Table, and we are a socially conscious integrated marketing communications agency in Denver. So we have about 50 different team members in the state of Colorado, and then in a handful of other locations around the country. And our team is really driven to work with like-minded organizations. So we work with companies that are making lasting impacts, either through their mission or through their work, through their brands, or for how they serve their communities. And I personally think that the IDEAS really fits the equation really well. So we love the partnership that we have together. We work with a variety of different clients in government, in healthcare, nonprofits. We work with outdoor organizations and conservation industries. And our work can really spread quite a way. So it can range anywhere from just providing some strategic communication support to full marketing and creative service campaigns. And our relationship with the city is pretty significant and has been really fantastic to be a part of. So we work as an on-call marketing partner for the city and county of Denver, and we've done that since 2017. So that means is that we work on a per task order basis. So we're really brought in as we're needed for different organizations or programs. Our work can range anywhere from developing or implementing really detailed and comprehensive programs and campaigns to being support staff to the city. We've occasionally done some crisis communication support. We do presentation trainings, and then we do a lot of creative work too. So on the slide that you all are looking at, you'll see just a few visual graphics to represent some of the work that we've done over the years. So we've did some work around vaccine equity during the pandemic through the Denver Department of Health and Environment. We also served kind of as an extension of their staff. So at that time, as you guys can probably remember, there was so much to share, so much to communicate. In order to allow the city staff to do their jobs, we were brought on to really manage some of the media questions and queries that would come in. So we would literally take calls, find experts, share information, and really operate as an extension of the city staff. We have also worked and do still work for the Parks and Rec Department and the Office of the City Forester. So you'll see a little graphic on here for the Be a Smartass campaign. That's something we created. I'm not exactly sure how long ago it was, but maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I might have that timing off. But also with the Department of Public Health and Environment, we also did a lot of work around vaccine equity, making sure that we were communicating to some communities that were underserved and making sure that we helped create materials and information that was designed specifically for their communities. So the work we've done for the city has been quite extensive and really incredible, and I feel really grateful to be a part of it. And I've been working with Michaela and the team at IDDEAS for quite a while now. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about some of the things we've done and some of the things that you're going to see coming soon.
Wendy, this is Michaela again. So this slide is titled IDDEAS Communication Goals. The title of the slide is on top of a panoramic picture of the city of Denver. And then we have kind of our 3 main categories of communication goals listed for you to read. And those are, the first one is to ensure awareness of their programs, of the IDDEAS program and our partnered programs and access to that information. The second goal is to demonstrate our impact and to be transparent. And the third goal is to activate our advisory council. So I'll talk a little bit about each of these goals now. So the first goal, to ensure awareness and access, is to work to communicate, to make sure that our communications and that our marketing attempts, or our marketing, sorry, our marketing activities, content, thank you, help increase access to key program information, funding opportunities and services, and that we're creating that content ourselves, but we're also supporting our partner programs with marketing and outreach so that they can help provide that access to their programs through dollars within their contract. And really, I think that's an important thing for us as the IDDEAS staff to remember, is that we want to make sure that the bulk of this outreach and communication is coming from the contracted partners that we work with, because when we're talking about making sure that people are aware of these services so that they can access them for themselves or for their loved ones, we want them going right to be able to go right to the institution that can provide those services or supports. If we start doing the bulk of the outreach or communication for the services that we're funding, we don't want to create a situation where the community gets a little bit confused and thinks we're the ones that are directly providing those services, so that we're coming to them and then having to refer them to the actual organization that we've funded to provide those services. We don't want to create that extra legwork or any further hurdles for our community to jump through. So we want to make sure that we're providing our partners with the tools and the support and the funding that they need to do a really great job at reaching those communities themselves. And then finally, in addition to doing things like emails or social media, things that are maybe a little bit more on kind of, if you're only on a listserv or if you happen to see it on a Google, we really wanted to work to increase our presence in the community this past year. And that's kind of doing tabling or presentations at community events or resource fairs So far, I think we have presented or tabled at 10 different community events or organizations, ranging from the Transit to Wellness Expo at the Denver Regional Mobility and Access Council, to the Human Rights and Community Partnerships Denver Days Back to School event in the Northfield neighborhood. We have done, Corey tabled at the Globeville Community Resource Fair, gave a presentation to the Sun Valley neighborhood, which is right here where our building, the Castro building at 12th and Federal is. We've been at the Autism Resource Fair, and we're always looking for more spaces that make sense for us to be in, where we can actually make those connections with folks to let them know that we're here and we want to hear from them so that we can fund the services and supports that are meaningful for Denver families and residents. So that's kind of what we're doing to ensure that awareness and access. Moving over to the second goal, to demonstrate impact and to be transparent. We want to make sure that all of our public communications are aimed at helping our key stakeholders. And by stakeholders, I mean you, the council, the Denver residents and families that can benefit from our funds, city council who are voting to approve our contracts, the mayor's office that provides leadership and oversight of this fund, and the taxpayers who have approved this mill levy a little over 20 years ago. They all understand the good work that we're doing and the need for it. And if they have any questions, they can access that information. We want to make sure that we're clear and transparent about what we're spending our money on and how we're making those decisions, which is a big part of where you all come in because you're helping with those recommendations. And then finally, our third goal, which is to activate our advisory council. Through this last recruitment effort and through future recruitment efforts, we're really wanting to work to increase our diversity and representation on the council. So we're hearing from folks from all backgrounds, from all experiences, knowing that disability, intellectual and developmental disability, like all other disabilities, is an intersectional identity. So your experience with IDD may be very different depending on the community that you were born in, and your access to services might be different for that too. So we want to make sure all of those voices are on the council. And we want to make sure the public knows how to access advisory council meetings to provide public comment and feedback. And also think about other ways that we can work to allow the public a platform to share that feedback too. And so I think those are all ways for our program to grow in a strategic direction that really incorporates the voice of the community. Any questions from any of the council members on this slide? Anything to add, Wendy?
No, I think you did a great job.
All right, we can go on to the next slide then.
Do you want me to walk through this slide, Michaela? Okay.
Sure, yeah. And then if at any point where you want Corey to pull up the website to kind of navigate around that for folks, we can do that too.
Oh, sure. So this slide has a graphic of an announcement that we worked with the IDEAS team on to share around. Just looking at this with my bad eyes. When we were at the recruitment campaign that we had to get in front of the eyeballs of some of you that are on this call, which is very exciting. So it's an example of one of the things that we've helped create to push out around awareness there. But a few other things that we've recently worked with the team on is to I don't know if we call it a new I guess it's a new website. It's a new website. Definitely a redesigned old website, so we'll call it a new website. And created a site that is a little more easy to navigate and easy to find information, and a little more not compartmentalized, but designed in a way where when someone gets to the IDEAS website page, it's easy for them to find information that's relevant to them. So do you want to take a quick peek at that at the website pages?
I'd love to show the advisory council, just kind of walk through, because I think it's a great resource for all of us to be able to reference. And if you're engaging in the community and they have more information, say on our housing navigation, you can know where to direct them in that website where they can find more information, and then get over to the partner website. And it's also, if you're going through this and find things you're like, wow, this was a little bit difficult to understand, or I wish you had this there, you can provide us with that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really wanted to make the landing page, which is the page that you're looking at right here, a very easy and clear way for people to find out a little bit more about what the IDEAS program is all about, and make easy access to the different departments, divisions, elements of the program. So Corey, if you can scroll down just a little more on the page, you'll just see we put together some simple blocks with visual representation and graphics that can bring people to the next page where they can learn more information, whether that's about funding opportunities or resources that are available to the community, or if you want to explore some of the programs that IDEAS funds. I think we're able to kind of pull this together in a format that makes it a little easier to digest than its original format. But yeah, it includes a lot of the information and opportunity to dive into more detail should you want to know more. And Corey's scrolling through some of the pages here, so you can see a few different things where we have the different programs outlined. You can dive into more information about each one. Then we've provided links out to those organizations, so it's easy to access more information or to get where you need to inquire about a certain service or program or entity. And then we've kind of keep things on each page. We always want people to know that this is a very inclusive organization, and that IDEAS really values the community's input. So you'll see on each of the pages there's a simple and quick sidebar to share your ideas, to share with IDEAS, reminding people and letting them know that they can be part of the advisory council and how to do so. We just wanted to make sure that things were easily accessible and as easy to navigate as possible, with the understanding that this is a city website. So we have to work within a certain structure. So that's kind of what we had in mind when we put these pages together and map things out.
And here's some ways I think that you all as advisory council members can use this as a resource when you're doing your own community outreach or engaging with the community on behalf of IDEAS to pull in that feedback that you want to bring to the meetings. So if you're talking to someone and they're really interested in maybe learning more, you can drive them to this website. We got what's called a vanity URL. You'll sometimes see cars on the highway that have their own kind of cute and clever license plate. So this is our, instead of like this really long web address that you kind of see at the top of Corey's shared screen, all you have to do is tell folks to go to denvergov.org/ideas. And if they want to join the advisory council meeting and you're not in a place where you can shoot them an email with a link, they just go to the advisory council subpage that Corey is on now, and then under upcoming meetings, if you see in the middle of the screen, join our next meeting, if you click on that little plus, you can see the agenda and then click to register. So that's really easy right there. You can see where all the upcoming meetings are just down below it. You can sign up for public comment here. And then if you keep scrolling down, you can see all of the meeting files for this past year. So if you, as an advisory council member, want to look back on a presentation that we gave to kind of refresh your memory on the budget, or what's been going on with our Denver Health Start program, you can access all of that right here. And then one more thing that I want to show you all as a resource for you, Corey, if you go back to the landing page and then to the resources. So the bottom left, we have another page, resources and publications. Here you can find the bylaws for the advisory council, the last landlord and builder assessment report, our needs assessment from 2018, the city ordinance, our program rules, the state statute that governs the Colorado Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. They promulgate the definition or create the definition of IDD that we follow. So all of those can be really great resources for you as an advisory council. Or if you have folks that are asking questions about that, you now know where you can shoot them. You know, you can say, oh, we'll just go to this webpage, or you can always connect them to us and we can do that too. But wanted to make sure that you had that available to you. And this is also a really great way if you're out in the community and you're just not quite sure, how do I talk about the IDEAS program? What do we do? What's the mission? What's the vision? All of that language is right there for you, and it should be hopefully pretty easy to access. Any questions on the website or feedback?
This is Brian B. Thank you. That's my huge feedback. Thank you. Thank you for all the team members that contributed. There's so many websites in the world out there that are ridiculous. Thank you that we're not one of them anymore.
I'm really glad you like it, Brian. That makes me super happy.
Right.
It was a lot of hours and a lot of love.
Absolutely.
It takes a lot of effort to do simple things. I think it's the other way around, but no. When something is simple and it works, effort went into that.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Corey, I think we're good to pop back over to the PowerPoint now if you are, Wendy.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple other quick things. So again, we had mentioned welcome to the new advisory council members. We're so excited you're here. We enjoyed working with Corey and the team on sharing information to, you know, get in front of your eyeballs so you could submit those applications and be part of this amazing organization. So we will do that, I guess, you know, well, I don't want, I'll let you guys talk to that, but I'm assuming that's the content that we've created to keep people aware of the advisory council, and some of the graphics and things that we've shared will, you know, potentially be used down the road as people cycle in and cycle out and things grow. And then we work with the team to consult with them on the programs that IDEAS is working on. So if there are programmatic announcements, so with the Kelsey and just starting with, you know, getting information out about an RFP. So if something is posted online, that's an RFP to share out, we want to make sure we're helping the team get it in front of the right eyeballs. And then sharing different information and communicating different steps in each of those processes. We've been working with the team collaboratively over the past few months. So those are just a few of the activity areas that we've been working with Michaela and everyone else at the IDEAS team over the past few months. And I think we're going to talk about a few things that you guys will see coming up.
Okay, so in the immediate future, what we're planning to do next is ground floor media or GFM center table. Sorry, Wendy, can't.
Okay.
Still getting used to that. They're hosting a communication and presentation training for the IDEAS team and our partners to really make sure that we are honing our presentation skills and making sure that we're all staying on the same message, using the same words to talk about the program to the community. When we describe the mill levy, when we describe the IDEAS program, and how we all are in relationship to one another with our partner organizations. Because we know there's been a lot of change with the Denver mill levy program in the last 5, 6, 7 years. There's been a lot of change in how, you know, the IDEAS program here at Denver. And so we don't want folks to be confused as this program is evolving and language may have changed. And one way that we want to do that is to make sure that all of the funded programs are all using the same language to talk to the community about it, to make sure that it's as easily accessible to them as possible. So that communication and presentation training is taking place next month. And then again, that's part of one of those goals to increase access and awareness, is to really support our partners in doing their own communications and outreach. To kind of follow up with this new beautiful website that we developed in partnership with GFM Center Table, we're doing something called search engine optimization, also referred to as SEO. And GFM Center Table has some super smart folks over there who have explained it to me, and I don't really understand for sure all the ins and outs, but long story short, when folks type in something like IDD Denver or IDD mill levy, we want to make sure that they're driving to our page, or even something like sensory friendly Denver or Be Home Denver. If they're searching for information about us or about the programs, we want to make sure that they can find it. So maybe they want to, engage with Be Home Denver. Hopefully they're pulls it up on their website, but if they don't, they can get access to us, and through our website, they can find Be Home. So we want to make sure when folks are using the internet and doing any sort of a search engine search, that's driving them to the information that they need. So that should be completed here in the next couple months, I think. We're kind of in the middle of that analysis. And then we're also working on our very first impact report. So this will be a document that will kind of describe the history and evolution of the IDEAS program since when it first began in 2017 until now. Some of the programs that we funded, how we spent our dollars, our work with you all as the advisory council, and look at kind of the positive programs and opportunities that we've created for Denver's IDD community. And so that is currently in drafting phase. We're hoping sometime in the next several months to get that out and published. That's going to kind of be a big report that looks at the whole last, what would it be, 7 years of the IDEAS program. And then hopefully after that, we can do an annual impact report after that keeps the community updated on our, what our revenue was, what our expenditures were, what programs we funded. So there's not any confusion about what we're doing, and the community has the ability to access that. And then finally, we'll be doing some additional outreach and communications around our second phase of advisory council recruitment later this year or early next year, as we have a few members who are reaching their term limits on this council. So we'll want to open that recruitment back up again. And we'll be using this time a lot of the same assets that GFM Center Table helped create for us. So that process is going to be even more efficient now that we've kind of done our first wave earlier this year. Any questions on the work that we've done or the works that we're planning to do? All right, now we're ready for the next slide. So now after providing you kind of with that overview of what our communication outreach strategy is and where we're planning to go, we'd love to hear from all of you about your thoughts and feedback. And so I have a slide here that says for discussion, and there's 3 questions that I have posed here. So the first is, how and where does your community access information? The second is, what does the community need to know about the IDEAS program, about our program? And what is the best way for us, the IDEAS program, to ask Denver's IDD community for input and feedback? So these are some of the things that we would love to learn from you as we continue to grow this communications and outreach strategy and work to achieve those goals that I talked about earlier. Welcome any of your thoughts. I'm just going to open it up to discussion among the council, and we will be taking notes. Yeah, Brian.
Brian B., autistic artist, advocate, rapport. Also rapport, and additionally rapport. That's my first answer for how to engage this people. Pass.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, Molly.
Something, because like you said, the mill levy program has changed over the years, and there is, it's not always clear for a lot of families that I work with and other families I know of what they can access or how they can access. So wondering what information is being sent to the families of younger folks in Denver with IDD, thinking of our like school-aged children particularly, who would qualify likely, but then aren't currently accessing those resources. So thinking of like how and where can that communication kind of get to more families who wouldn't even know to go on the website, because it is such a clear website, but they wouldn't even know that it exists. So that's like wondering I've had, because I've had many different conversations over the years, and yeah, it's definitely a struggle for a lot of people. So I don't have a specific answer, but just thinking of like how can we get more more information to the families of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as the obviously the adults in the room, but to be able to kind of increase that.
Molly, a follow-up question to that. Of the families that you work with, would you be able to give a ballpark of how many of them do you say have an awareness of Denver's mill levy funds?
I would say over the years, it's maybe about a quarter are aware. But most, and it's like a high estimate. So, and it definitely, there's a lot of demographics that involved with that. So like, and it's mostly through Rocky Mountain Human Services that they may be aware. But then it just depends on the case manager. So there are lots of, I mean, maybe closer to 10% honestly are aware of it before I talk to them about mill levy funds.
And one last follow-up question. When you say they're aware of mill levy funds through their case manager, are they aware of mill levy funds in kind of that individual request bucket of funds that families can request? Do they have a broader awareness of the other programming around that? Or when they think mill levy, is it just that kind of individual request monies that they're thinking of? Okay. So they're probably not even aware of all the other programming that's happening outside of that. Got it.
And the other resources and the different programs that are available and out there in the community too.
Super helpful. Thanks, Molly.
And that's primarily families with older children, right? Like transition age.
Yeah, currently, but I used to be a high school teacher. So for 13, 14-year-old students whose families did not know about mill levy funds either.
Right. I guess what I'm thinking is that that's people who have already, had, likely been in, IEPs and different levels of programming. So if it's that small of a number and it's older students, then, when we're looking at even younger, it would likely be, even less awareness, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. This is Kisley from Rocky Mountain Human Services. Am I able to address that question for Molly? Okay. Molly, great question. I'm so glad that you asked that question, and I'm glad that you are joining us in this space as a council member. I will just point out that, and I think you are pretty connected to our school and community liaisons. But what I will say is this is probably our second year of developing those positions and really just researching and trying to figure out who are the key stakeholders for us to be in contact with so that we can be into those spaces where we're working directly with families. But what I will highlight here in this meeting is that one of our liaisons focus is on our immigrant and our newcomers, as well as our early intervention and really targeting those kids at the very early stages of development. And then Julianne is the other liaison, and she's really working with the transition programs and really all transitions. And so I'll just say that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, but that we are being very intentional. We have this year and for the 25 school year, we are working to be intentional with our pop-up resources. And so we have a few schools that we're targeting that we're going to, just make ourselves available and really just introduce ourselves to the community, because some feedback that we recently did receive was that there's a little confusion in the community with what does Rocky Mountain Human Services have to offer, and how are they different from Denver Human Services? And as you know, with our newcomers and our undocumented, families, we have to be very intentional in how we separate ourselves and how we show up in the community. So we're working on that, and I hope that this time next year that we've made some really good ground in that sense. But thank you for highlighting that, and we are aware of that, and we've put a few things in place so that we can be more intentional about those families.
Thanks so much, Kisley. And just for those of you who might not be familiar with the school and community-based liaisons, those are 2 positions that are funded with IDEAS mill levy funding through Rocky Mountain Human Services. And Kisley said those positions were created 2 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, I want to say we hired 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Julianne, I feel like has been working a couple more years, but it's great that there's another person for the younger students and also the immigrant and newcomer folks too. That's great.
And so, and as Kisley said, I think their main objective is to be that liaison between Rocky Mountain Human Services, and I think particularly kind of mill levy funded programs or programs that folks with family members or who themselves may have a developmental disability or IDD that are in schools and community, making sure that they know what programs that they can access at Rocky Mountain Human Services. Is that right, Kisley?
That's correct. And we even go so far as to offer that application support. And so we meet families where they are and provide that hands-on support if that's what's needed. We also connect families to the individual request, which is one of our access points to mill levy. But just to answer your question, Molly, we do have 2 other access points to mill levy. The second one being service plans that we usually supplement the waiver with to meet a particular need, as well as our community initiatives. That is our community partnerships with different unique, innovative organizations.
Thanks, Kisley.
Absolutely.
And I'm seeing a message in the chat from Alexa, and she says, I'm driving, but wanted to say it may be valuable to connect with groups like the Rocky Mountain Down Syndrome Association. That is an organization I connected with when our diagnosis was received. There are many other IDD organizations that we could do outreach with to inform about the council and the resources. Thanks so much, Alexa. That's a great comment.
Can I ask a follow-up question for Kisley as part of the communication part too, I guess? How do families access support around the application process? And are there Spanish speaking and other language supports available as well?
Yes. So our community, our partner for our Spanish families is going to be El Grupo Vida, where we do have an access coordinator that is located on site. So not only is that helpful just for families to be able to go to one place to access that resource, but that the person that works for El Grupo Vida is a former RMHS staff. And so we feel very confident about that resource. In addition to that, you can access application support directly just through our intake team. But we know that there's some barriers to that. And so feel free to share out our school and community liaisons contact information. And they're working directly with families.
Okay.
Jessica, Chris, Lindsay, would love to hear any thoughts you may have if you have them. Certainly no pressure at all. Yes, Jessica.
I was just wondering if there's been any outreach through news services or anything like that, because that could have potential to reach especially the blind community.
That's a great question, Jessica. And so you're asking if we've done any outreach in particular to the blind community?
Not necessarily in particular, but in like ways that would be more accessible.
Okay.
Um, um, like through, I don't know, like like interviews on the news or radio stations or something.
That's
Like we can't see a sign somewhere, or I don't know if that makes sense or not.
It does, absolutely. And I don't think that we have done anything that is
Or
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
or you could do through the Colorado Talking Book Library too. They can put things in their newsletters.
That's such an awesome suggestion, Jessica. Thank you so much. Brian put in the chat, she's wondering, Brian was asking to repeat and summarize to make sure that everyone could hear. Jessica, let me know if I get this right, but I think your question and encouragement was one, if the IDEAS program had done any communications or outreach that were accessible to the blind community. And you provided some examples like interviews or videos that could be heard instead of read. And then also suggested reaching out to the Talking Book Library. And I think you noted that they had a kind of a resource collection of resources for that community. Is that right?
They have a newsletter that they send
A
out
newsletter.
To all the patrons, and probably most of the blindness community is works with the Talking Book Library. So I don't know how often they send out the newsletter, if it's like once a quarter or once every other month. But like they can put announcements in there, I think.
Thank you
That's
so
really-
much, Jessica.
Yeah, that's really great to hear and to know about, Jessica. Thank you.
I think we've got a couple minutes left, Corey. Is that right? Before we wrap up with planning for the next meeting?
Yeah, check. Well, my timer's got you for a little bit longer here, but without public comment, we're kind of okay. It's 2:48 right now. We would need about at least 5 minutes for that. So yeah, we're good.
Is the training that you're going to be doing, is that going to be just for like DHS staff?
So this training is for DHS staff and then our contracted partners. That's really to support them in doing the communication outreach for their own programs.
I think something like that would be really helpful for us as well, just because, it's kind of a console where it's hard to summarize in a like concise way for people to like really understand what this is and the importance of it and the value of it. And that's really important in ways that well, obviously in many ways, so that people understand the role, the value, because those funds can always be adjusted, like we saw previously with the potential like like reorg of the budget with the mayor and, you know, the things with Denver Health. So I think if those of us that are on the council have, you know, additional tools as well to be able to articulate in really, you know, easy ways for people to understand what we're doing and why this is important and why just like the mill levy funding is important would be really helpful.
Thanks, Lindsay. Is there anything in particular you'd like to see in a training like that for the advisory council? Kind of just how to talk about the funding source and the dollars in a way that's succinct and accessible.
And yeah, that and the council in general, because it's not something that's very, you know, oh, it's this and we do this. It's a little bit, you know, a little complex.
Got it.
Even for, you know, even relaying the role of it amongst other people in, you know, similar programming or services. So then, you know, I guess ways to discuss it amongst sort of, I guess, I don't know if peers is the right word, but, you know, other people in human services, and then also, you know, people who are not.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's a great suggestion.
And I think even the second bullet point is a great talking point to, I mean, I know we're kind of running towards the end here, but I think that that's a great question, because it would be great to look at, you know, ways to raise awareness of the council, the role of the mill levy funds, the importance of it. And then at the same time, what does the community need to know about the program? Like in a way that is not, like you've talked about, you know, going to confuse the issue where people are, you know, thinking this is the place to like connect for the programming directly, but also in a way where they understand that, you know, this is something that, you know, it's important to continue supporting in the future and what it does. And so it's not something where I know what the answer is in terms of like what specifically the community needs to know, but I think definitely raising awareness more about the existence of it in ways that are like helpful to understand, but also, you know, not in a way where people are thinking that this is like the access point.
Right. Yeah, Brian.
Brian B, and just to iterate, we have 3 points for discussion. How and where does your community access information? What does the community need to know about our program, meaning IDEAS, mill levy? And what is the best way to ask Denver's IDD community for input and feedback? My further input, I mentioned rapport, and by that I mean relationship, you know, having people that you trust, or at least you're less afraid of, willing to ask a question, willing to interact with. And I would additionally add storytelling, how important that is, and interactive. I was at a college campus class once, and they opened it and they said, "I'm glad everybody found the room." I guess there was a last minute room change. And to be ridiculous, I said, anyone that didn't find the room, please raise your hand. I looked around, and then I said, "Oh, good, then everybody made it." To the point is, if you didn't get to the room, then you're not there to speak up that you didn't get to the room. And that is often happening with our folks with IDD in Denver and greater Denver Metro. If you're not tapped in, then we don't know about them. Now we have a lot of great resources and surveys and tools to come to know them. And thank you, Ground Floor Media, GFM with something else, Table, something. Sorry, I'll get there. Thank you for the many folks that are helping, get the word to build relationship. As you mentioned, Michaela, what did you say? 20 events just this year?
Oh, well, I wish it was 2010, but
10.
we're building it up.
Hey, 10 is 10 more than 0. Storytelling. My question is, do we have, I saw on the website a couple of photos of various people who visually may represent. Do we have what Jessica was talking about? Do we have people that have shared their story? And if we need to scroll this over into another month, I think we all know the value of storytelling, that it's an accessibility feature. It helps make it understandable and knowable. Yes.
Thanks, Brian. I think that's such a great suggestion. We don't have that storytelling component of the website yet. I think it's a wonderful suggestion and really important, and one that I'd like to definitely hold on to and continue to look at as we build out our communications infrastructure, to see ways that we can start incorporating that through either recorded stories or in writing, or a combination of both, or video. I think there's a lot of potential there.
I'm going to jump in and just thank everybody. Michaela and Wendy, if you have any final remarks, go ahead and share them. But we do have about 3 minutes left to forecast our next meeting and plan for that. So I'd like to get to that so that nobody has to be over and talking about that. Did you have anything else that you just wanted to make sure that the council heard about that? Okay.
Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Michaela. Lindsay, I'll let you take it away from here.
Okay, so just for new members, we're just kind of looking at our next meeting. Is there anything that anyone wants to have as a future topic, or, any questions from this meeting, or anything that we want to add to our upcoming agenda? Brian?
Brian B., I'll just seed an idea. This is not for next month, but at one point we considered asking everybody, hey, we meet on Tuesday afternoons. Is that good for you? Do you have a different day in mind? And we will be asking you that. So just attend for the next month or two or more and think to yourself, do I have a different preference? Would something else work better for me? Because we'll be asking about that. Yes.
This is Corey talking. Thank you so much, Brian. And you reminded me that I again forgot something during our updates period where I wanted to kind of talk about that kind of stuff with everybody. So yes, we are going to be looking, and I would like to invite people to let me know about their preferred times. We have to do a few things. One is we will have a few members rolling off of our council this year. And so therefore we'll have a different batch of availability, and we have to plan 2025. We do not meet in December, which means that we have October and November to have that conversation to plan that 2025 schedule. We could talk about it in January too, but the sooner we start talking about it, the better, because I got to chase folks down and everything. So please think about your availability and kind of have that on your mind, and preferred location too. We are still considering the conversation of meeting in person. And so please let me know if you have that. And then at our next meeting, we'll talk about changing our dates and times. For October and November, I'm thinking we're going to keep it now, unless there is some extreme circumstance where nobody can make it to one of those meetings. And then just be aware that in December we don't meet. Unless we need to. We can if we need to. And so if people would like to request that, we can, but right now we don't.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule. I think we can, I like the suggestion or the comment from Alexa about, some other outreach and connecting with other organizations. We could definitely revisit some of the conversation about outreach and, what we've talked about before, whether it's just like a non-meeting or, in community session or whatever, where it's not an official meeting, but talking about some of those other ways to kind of get in those settings.
And that goes back to what I was talking about, rapport. Just being willing to be known and to know others. That is essential to who we are, who we're here to serve, and how we can be effectively engaging. Pass.
Thanks, everyone. And then we'll also have, as part of the agenda tomorrow, in addition to the topics that you all would like to discuss, we'll have Bayad Be Home coming to report on their Housing Navigator program. That's part of their contracted requirements to report out and share their progress with all of you. So we can look forward to hearing from them as well.
Okay, and since we are at time, I will open up for a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
Right. Motion to adjourn the meeting. If voting members want to put their vote in the chat. Yes, we got
I know that Alexa said that
Or-
she was driving, so she might
Right.
not be able to vote right now.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna go with 4 yes. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 3:02 p.m.
With Motown's support. Put that in the notes.